In a world that screams for attention, the quietest person holds all the power. Learn how to use silence to become smarter, respected, and even a little dangerous. Subscribe and turn on notifications now, because mastering this one skill will change your entire life. Let me start with a question for you. Have you ever noticed why the most successful people often speak less? They don't feel the need to argue in every conversation. They don't try to explain themselves to every person they meet. And they don't react to every negative comment or insult. Why is that? It's because they understand a very important truth. Words, once they are spoken, cannot be taken back. You can say, "I'm sorry." You can try to explain what you meant. But the damage is already done. You see, a person might forget a nice compliment you gave them, but they will almost never forget an insult. They will remember the words that hurt them. Silence is not a weakness. It is not about being empty. Silence is protection. It is power. And it is preparation. The person who speaks less listens more. And as you know, the person who listens more learns more. And when you learn more, you grow faster and become stronger. There is a famous line that I want you to remember. It says, "Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools speak because they have to say something." This video is not about being shy. It is not about being an introvert. This video is about becoming wise. It is about becoming calm-controlled and even a little bit dangerous, but in a silent way. Because when you speak less, you protect your energy. You protect your image, your reputation. You protect your focus. And most importantly, you protect your mind. After watching this video today, you will learn about the hidden power of silence. You will understand the many benefits of staying calm. You will learn how to use silence as a tool to help you win in life, and you will learn how to become the master of your own mind. This video will not only inspire you, I hope, but it will also help you improve your English, your vocabulary, and the way you speak and think. So please watch until the end. Because this video might just change your entire life. Let's begin with the first benefit. Benefit number 1. You stay ahead of your competitors. When you speak less, you don't reveal all your plans. You don't tell everybody what you are building or creating. You don't share every idea, every dream, or every move you are planning to make. Instead, you move in silence. You work quietly. And then you let your success make all the noise for you. Let me give you a powerful example. There was a young man who wanted to start his own business. All of his friends told him it was a bad idea. They said, "You can't do it. You don't know anything about business." He felt a little sad hearing this, but he didn't argue with them. He didn't try to defend himself. He just smiled, nodded, and continued to work in silence, while other people were busy posting on social media showing off their lives. He was busy working. He was reading books about business. He was learning new skills online. He was working late into the night when everyone else was asleep. His friends sometimes laughed at him. They saw him working hard and thought he was wasting his time. 1 year passed. Then they were all shocked. He had built a successful, profitable business. He was doing very well. His old friends came to him and asked, "Wow, how did you do it? We didn't even know you were working on this." He just smiled and said, "I was busy working while you were busy talking." His silence kept him focused. His silence protected his energy from their negativity. And his silence gave him the element of surprise. He didn't need to announce his plans. He just needed to achieve them. So please remember this. A silent person often moves ahead of others because they don't waste their precious time and energy trying to prove themselves with words. They prove themselves with results. Now for benefit number 2. You understand people's true intentions much more clearly. When you are silent in a conversation, you give other people a chance to speak. And when people speak a lot, they start to reveal who they truly are. You begin to see the truth behind their words. You start to notice who is being honest and who is lying. You can see who is insecure and just wants attention. You can feel who is trying to manipulate you and who is genuine and kind. People expose their true selves when they are given the space to talk too much. Let me give you a strong, real-world example. Imagine you are in a group of friends. Everyone is laughing and joking and speaking very loudly. But you are just sitting there quietly. You are observing. You are listening. Suddenly, you start to notice things. You notice that one person in the group keeps talking badly about other people who aren't there. Another person keeps bragging about how much money they have again and again. And another person keeps making small, hurtful jokes, trying to make others feel small. Because you are silent, you see all of this clearly. It's like you are watching a movie. But they don't see you. They think you are not paying attention, or maybe that you are not very smart. But inside your mind, you have already understood everything about them. You have already decided, this person I can trust. That person, I need to be careful around them. That is the power of silence. The smarter you get, the less you feel the need to speak. You start to listen to understand, not just to reply. In business, in your relationships, in your daily life, the silent observer always has the advantage. They always win in the long run. Because silence gives you the space you need to think clearly, and it gives you the power to decide wisely. Let's move to benefit number 3. This one is a powerful rule in life. The first one to speak often loses. In life, silence is not just about finding peace. It is a strategy. And one of the most powerful rules in business, in negotiation, and in leadership is this: the first person to speak often loses their power. Why? Because when you speak first, you reveal your thoughts, you show your cards, you tell the other person what you want, you give the power to them. But when you stay silent, you make the other person a little uncomfortable. You make them guess what you are thinking. You make them feel nervous. Let me give you a very clear and powerful example. There was a man who went for a job interview at a very big company. He was nervous but excited. The interviewer looked at his resume and said, "Okay, we like your experience. We will give you a salary of $70,000 per year. How does that sound?" The man didn't say anything. He didn't say yes, he didn't say no. He just smiled a little, looked the interviewer in the eye, and stayed completely silent. 5 seconds passed. Then 10 seconds. The silence in the room started to feel a little heavy, a little uncomfortable for the interviewer. 15 seconds passed. Then the interviewer spoke again. He said, "Okay, let me talk to our HR department. Maybe we can do $80,000. Boom. Just like that. The man didn't say a single word, but he earned $10,000 more just by staying silent. This is not a magic trick. This is a demonstration of power. In every high-level negotiation, whether it's in business or even in politics, the person who feels the need to speak first often loses control of the situation. Now let's look at someone very famous. You might know Jack Ma, the founder of the huge company Alibaba. After building one of the biggest companies in China, Jack Ma became too powerful. He also became too outspoken. He was very famous and started giving many interviews, sometimes speaking against powerful people and institutions. Then one day, he disappeared. For months, nobody knew where he was. The world was worried. That is when people realized that in some very serious games, silence is not just a powerful tool, it's necessary for your survival. When he finally returned, he was not the same man. He was much quieter. He had learned a difficult lesson sometimes to speaking too much can put you in real danger. So remember this important lesson. The strongest person in the room is often the quietest one. Don't rush to speak. Don't feel like you always have to impress people with your words. And don't always feel the need to explain yourself, because silence helps keep the power in your hands. This brings us to benefit number 4. You can focus better in times of danger. When danger suddenly appears, most people panic. They scream. They run. They talk without thinking. They act without any clarity. But the person who can stay silent is the person who can think. And the person who can think clearly is the person who survives. Let me tell you a true story. It's very intense. There was a soldier who was trapped in enemy territory. His team was gone. His radio was broken. It was the middle of the night, and he was completely alone. All around him he could hear enemy soldiers walking with their guns. Just one small sound, one mistake, and he would be dead. What did he do? He stayed completely, perfectly silent. He controlled his body and slowed his breathing. He stopped all movement. He didn't even speak to himself inside his own mind. He became one with the silence of the night. For 6 long hours he waited motionless. Then when the time was right, when he saw a clear path, he escaped. Later, in an interview, he said something powerful. He said, "Silence saved my life. If I had moved or even whispered to myself, I wouldn't be here today." Now you might not be a soldier on a battlefield. But in our lives, danger can take many different forms. It can be a toxic argument at work. It can be a sudden, unexpected problem in your business. It can be a painful situation in a relationship. It can be a moment when you feel like you are about to lose control of your emotions. In those moments, you have 2 choices. You can react fast emotionally, or you can remain silent. The person who reacts with emotion often makes mistakes, but the person who stays silent sees everything with clarity. Silence gives you time, and time gives you clarity, and clarity gives you power. Even in nature, it is the silent hunter that wins. The lion does not roar before it attacks. The eagle does not scream before it strikes its prey. They stay quiet, they focus, and then they strike with perfect precision. So the next time life gets difficult or dangerous, don't speak right away. Don't react. Don't panic. Just be silent. Be still. Let your mind find the way forward. Because in moments of danger, silence is your sword and your shield. Let's talk about benefit number 5. Silence builds incredible strength. In a world that is so full of noise, silence is not emptiness. It is a form of training. It is a way of building your character. It is how you become unshakable. When you are silent, it doesn't mean you are doing nothing. It often means you are doing something so powerful on the inside that no one on the outside can see it. Let me take you to a world that understood this power very deeply. The world of the monks in ancient India. One of them was a man named Gautama Buddha. Before he became the Buddha, the enlightened one, he was a prince. He had riches, power, and every kind of luxury. But he felt that something inside him was empty, so he left everything behind. He walked away from his palace and entered a world of deep silence. He walked alone through forests. He sat under a large tree, not speaking for days and days. Not eating, not moving, not complaining. He was just watching his own thoughts, just feeling his breath, just becoming something greater. And in that deep, powerful silence, he found his awakening. He found true understanding. He once said, Silence is the language of the awakened. What does this mean? It means that when you stop talking, you finally start to hear your own soul. You start to hear what truly matters in your life. Now let's bring this idea to today's world. You see people everywhere. They are posting online, talking constantly, shouting their opinions, complaining about their problems. But the strongest people, they are often silent. They are not trying to prove anything to anyone. They are not trying to impress the world. They are busy building themselves in the shadows. Think of a boxer who is training for a big fight. No one sees him. But every single morning at 5:00 a.m., he is running on the cold streets. Every night he is in a quiet gym, punching the heavy bag. He doesn't post stories about his training. He doesn't shout about how great he is. And then one day he steps into the ring, and the whole world says, "Wow, where did this person come from?" He came from the silence. That's what silence does. It builds you. It builds you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It builds discipline. It builds patience. It builds emotional control and mental focus. And most of all, it builds your inner power. Even in popular shows like Peaky Blinders, you can see how the main character Tommy Shelby never reacts quickly. He listens. He watches. He walks into a room and says very little. But when he does speak, every single word hits like a bullet. Why? Because people know that the quietest man in the room is often the most dangerous one. That's not just fiction, it's a reflection of real power. So ask yourself this question. Are you wasting your strength by talking too much? Or are you building your power in silence because silence is not weakness? Silence is where legends are born. Now for benefit number 6. Silence helps you negotiate better. Negotiation is not just a game of words. It is a game of patience, energy, and control. And in this game, the silent person almost always wins. Whoa. Because when you are silent, you don't show that you are desperate. You don't reveal your weaknesses. You don't let your emotions control the deal. Instead, you create a sense of mystery. You create pressure on the other person. You control the tempo of the conversation. Let's look at a powerful example from history. Let's talk about Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 long years in prison. Most people would come out of that experience broken, weak, angry, and lost. But when Mandela walked out of that prison, he didn't shout for revenge. He didn't make angry demands. He stayed calm. He stayed silent. And when it was time to negotiate with the same leaders who had once imprisoned him, he didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He listened carefully. And when he spoke, the silence he held before each word made the entire room freeze, because people could feel it. They knew this man was not speaking from his ego. This man was speaking from a place of deep strength. And what happened? He didn't just win freedom for himself, he freed an entire nation. That is the incredible power of silence in negotiation. Now let's bring this idea to a business setting. Imagine 2 business people sitting at a table. One of them keeps talking and talking. He says, "I really want this deal. I'll give you 20%. I can increase the offer. Let's just do it today." He sounds nervous and desperate. The other business person sits there quietly. They listen. They observe. Then, after a long pause, they say just one simple line. "I think you are underestimating our value." And then they go silent again. The room becomes tense. The first business person starts to panic. He doesn't know what the other one is thinking. That silence, that pause, that stillness, it creates immense pressure. It often makes the other side fold and offer a better deal. Because in a negotiation, The person who speaks less often wins more. And remember, when you stay silent, you allow the other person to show their hand first. You listen not to reply, but to understand what they really want. And sometimes your silence forces them to negotiate with themselves. They start changing their own offer right in front of you. And you just sit there and watch. That is real control. That is how the world's best leaders, CEOs, politicians, and warriors win. They don't shout. They don't beg. They don't rush. They sit, they breathe, and they let their silence do the work for them. Let's talk about benefit number 7. You will know yourself better. Most people in the world today are strangers to themselves. Isn't that a sad thought? They know their phone better than they know their own heart. They know the birthday of their favorite celebrity, but they don't know why they themselves feel sad. They don't know why they feel anxious or why they feel empty even after getting success or going to parties or making money. Do you know why this is? It's because the world is too loud. We are surrounded by noise 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Social media, other people's opinions, arguments, news messages, notifications. There is so much fear and pressure. In all of this noise, your true voice, the voice inside of you, gets buried. But here is the truth. The moment you become silent, you meet yourself. Silence is the only place where you can truly and honestly face yourself. In silence, you start to hear your own thoughts clearly. At first, it can be uncomfortable. You sit alone in a quiet room, and your mind starts shouting at you. Why did I fail? Why am I not happy? Why do I feel so empty? Am I good enough? What do I really want from my life? Most people run away from these thoughts. They immediately turn on music, open Instagram, or call a friend to distract themselves. But the strong ones, the brave ones, they sit with their silence. And in that silence, they face their own darkness. They face their doubts and their fears. And slowly, step by step, they begin to understand who they really are. Let me give you a powerful reflection from a real story. There was once a man who traveled the entire world searching for happiness. He went to the biggest parties he bought expensive cars, he visited temples, and he met with spiritual gurus. But no matter what he did, he still felt empty inside. Then one day, he locked himself in a small, simple cabin in the mountains. There was no phone, no books, no people. There was just silence. The first day was very difficult. He panicked. The second day, he cried. But on the third day, he began to hear something new. It was not a voice from the outside world. It was a voice coming from within him. He wrote in his journal, "Today I finally met someone I had ignored for my entire life, me." That is what silence does. It introduces you to the most important person in your life, yourself. You begin to see what you truly want. You begin to understand what wounds from your past you have been hiding. You remember the dreams you forgot about. You see the bad habits that are destroying you, and you discover the true values that can guide you. This is not therapy. It is not magic. It is just silence. You start to separate the person the world told you to be from the person you were born to be. In silence, there is no judgment. There is no pressure. There is no noise. There is only truth. And the truth is this: you cannot grow until you know who you are. You cannot heal until you face what hurts you. And you cannot build a new future until you sit with your past. So please give yourself the gift of silence, not for the world, but for your own soul, because the most powerful transformation always begins from within. This brings us to benefit number 8. Silence gets people's attention. We live in a world where everyone is screaming for attention. Look at me. Buy from me. Listen to me. Follow me. Notice me. People post pictures every hour, talk every minute, and react to every little thing. But here is a simple truth. The more noise you make, the less people actually hear you. Because when everyone is shouting, no one stands out. But now, I want you to imagine a room full of loud talking people. And one person walks into that room and is completely silent. They don't speak. They don't rush. They just sit down calmly observing the room waiting. What happens? Every head in the room eventually turns towards them. People start to wonder, who is that person? Why are they so quiet? They must know something that we don't. That is how you get attention without any effort. That is the kind of powerful presence that silence gives you. Let me give you a striking example. Have you ever heard of a man named Julius Yego from Kenya? He was a javelin thrower, an athlete, but he didn't have a coach. He had no support and no spotlight on him. While other athletes were shouting about their great training programs, Julius was silent. He was training all by himself by watching YouTube videos. People laughed at him. They said, "You will never make it. You need a real coach." He didn't reply to them. He didn't fight back. He just kept working quietly in silence. And then at the 2015 World Championships, he threw the javelin. It flew 92.72 meters. The whole stadium was shocked into silence. The commentators were speechless. He had just become the world champion trained by YouTube and his own silent determination. Suddenly, the world turned all its cameras on him. And when they asked, "How did you do it?" he simply said, "I let my performance speak for me." That is real power. That is how silence wins attention. You don't need to speak loudly. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. Let your silence build mystery. Let your results make the noise. Even in your own personal life, you may have noticed this. The people who talk too much about what they are going to do, they rarely do it. But the one who is quiet, who disappears for a few months and then returns with real success, that is the person everyone respects. That is the person who commands attention without even asking for it. Because silence is not absence. Silence is presence. It says, "I don't need to prove myself to you. I am enough." In every room you enter, you don't need to be the loudest person. You just need to be the most centered, calm, and silent person. Because the world listens more carefully when you speak less. Let's talk about benefit number 9. Silence builds trust. Trust is not built by speaking more. Trust is built by speaking less and meaning more. We live in a world where people will say anything to impress someone, and they will say everything to manipulate someone. In this kind of world, your silence becomes your truth. Why? Because silence shows that you listen. It shows that you think before you speak. It shows that you don't rush to judge other people. It shows you don't gossip. And it shows you don't betray private conversations. Let me ask you a question. When something deep and emotional happens in your life, who do you go to for help? Do you go to the friend who talks all the time and always gives advice? Or do you go to the friend who just sits with you in silence? Maybe holds your hand, nods gently, and just listens with their eyes. Most of us would choose the second friend. That's the friend we trust. Because they don't need to say much. Their silent, supportive presence says everything. Let me tell you the story of Kalpana Chawla, the Indian-American astronaut. When she was in her astronaut training, she was known for something very rare. While the other candidates were busy talking, trying to show off their knowledge and prove how smart they were, Kalpana often stayed silent. She listened. She absorbed information. She practiced quietly. One of her instructors once said, "When Kalpana spoke, people stopped and listened, because her silence had already earned their respect." That is the kind of deep trust that silence can build. People begin to think, if she's quiet, she must be serious about her work. Or, if he's not talking, he must be thinking deeply. They trust you because you don't talk behind people's backs. You don't speak without a clear purpose. When your silence becomes your strength, your character becomes your voice. And in business, in leadership, in friendship, and in love, nothing is more valuable than trust. People don't really trust those who talk too much. Because deep down, we all know that the louder the words, the weaker the truth often is. But when you speak less and your words have weight and meaning, people listen. They believe you. They follow you. Even in the military, the best leaders are not the ones who are always shouting. They are the ones who walk silently through the camp, who observe their soldiers, who listen to their concerns, and who speak only when it truly matters. And when they do speak, everyone listens. Why? Because trust is not built by volume. It's built by integrity. And nothing protects your integrity more than silence. So the next time you are tempted to talk too much, or to explain yourself, or to prove something to someone, just pause. Take a deep breath. And remember that your silence can be much louder than any speech. And finally, benefit number 10. Silence builds great relationships. If you want to build strong, deep, and beautiful relationships in your life, silence is not just helpful, it's essential. In love, in marriage, in friendship, in family. The deepest connections are not built by talking all the time. They are built by knowing when to be silent. When someone you love is crying, they don't always need your advice. Sometimes they just need your silent presence. When someone is angry, they don't need your reaction. They need your silent understanding. When someone is sharing their deepest truth with you, they don't need your judgment. They need your silent acceptance. Let me give you a real example that I hope will stay with you forever. There was an old man and his wife. They had been married for 53 years. They were still deeply in love. One day, a young man asked them, "What is your secret? How did you stay so in love for so long?" The old man smiled and said something very wise. He said, "Because I learned that I don't need to win every argument. I learned to stay silent even when I knew I was right." That one sentence is a masterclass in love. In every relationship, there will be a time when you want to shout to prove a point to fight. But if you can stay calm, if you can choose to be silent in that moment, you protect something that is much bigger than your ego. You protect the relationship itself. Look at nature. Even the moon and the ocean have a relationship. The moon doesn't speak. The ocean doesn't argue. But they still move together, silently, powerfully, and endlessly. That is what a real deep connection looks like. And please remember this. In real love, you don't need to explain everything. Sometimes your silence says, "I understand you." Sometimes your silence says, "I forgive you." And sometimes your silence simply says, "I'm still here for you." We often think that love is all about words. Words like, "I love you," "I miss you," "I'm sorry." But the most powerful love is often felt in the moments when no words are needed at all. And in friendship too, the best of friends can sit together in complete silence for hours and still feel perfectly connected. Because that silence means, I don't need to fill this space to feel close to you. I don't need to impress you. I am simply at peace with you. That is real intimacy. Even with parents and children, sometimes the greatest bond is not found in giving advice, but in just sitting together in the kitchen drinking tea in silence and feeling completely safe and loved. So if you want great relationships, learn to listen more and talk less. Understand more and react less. Pause more. And when you do speak, speak with kindness, with meaning, and with presence. Because the person who knows when to stay silent is the person who knows how to truly love. Now that you know the 10 powerful benefits of silence, you might be wondering, okay, this is great, but how can I develop this skill in my own life? Don't worry. Now I will share 5 simple but very powerful steps to help you master the art of silence and transform your life from the inside out. Let's start with step number 1. Pause before you speak. Control is power. Mastering silence doesn't start with being quiet all day long. It starts with one small but powerful habit, the pause. Pause before you reply. Pause before you react. Just pause. That pause, even if it's only for 2 seconds, can save your job, your relationship, your energy, and your peace of mind. Let's take a very real, relatable situation. You are in an argument with someone. They say something that is hurtful. Your mind immediately screams, reply, defend yourself. Say something back right now. But instead, you pause. You take one deep breath. And in that small moment of silence, you ask yourself a question. Is this worth my energy? Will my reply make this situation better or worse? That simple pause changes everything. You don't lose control. You don't say words that you will regret later. You don't destroy something you have built. In that moment, you become the master of your own emotions. Now think of someone like former President Barack Obama. Have you ever noticed how he speaks? He often pauses before he answers a question. He doesn't rush. He doesn't shout. He thinks deeply, and then he speaks calmly and clearly. That is one reason why people trusted him. That's why his words carry so much weight. Because he respects the silence between his words, you can learn to do the same thing. The next time someone says something rude to you or tries to test you, just pause. Don't answer immediately. Look them in the eye, maybe give a small soft smile, and say nothing for a moment. Let the silence speak for you, because the person who can pause is the person who can control any situation. Step number 2. Spend time alone to meet yourself in the silence. The second step to mastering silence is this. You must be willing to be alone, to be still, and to be silent. Not just for a few minutes here and there. Try to make it a daily habit. Maybe you can wake up a little earlier than everyone else. Find a quiet corner in your home. Leave your phone in another room. Close your eyes, and just be silent. At first, your mind will resist. It will say, "This is so boring. Nothing is happening. Let's check the phone." But don't move. Stay with the stillness, because in that stillness, you will start to meet someone very important yourself. You will begin to notice your own thoughts. You will see your patterns of thinking. You will remember your dreams. You will feel your fears. You will begin to hear your inner voice again, the one that the loud world made you forget. Let me give you a powerful example. Steve Jobs. The founder of Apple was a genius. He was a genius not just in technology, but in his way of thinking. Do you know what one of his secrets was? It was silence. He once said, "I take walks in silence because that's when I can hear my best ideas." He would take long walks all by himself. No music, no talking to anyone, just silence and nature. And it was in those quiet walks that he found the revolutionary ideas that built Apple. That isn't magic. That is the power of giving your mind the space it needs to think. You see, silence is not empty. Silence is like a room full of answers just waiting for you to walk in. But you can only enter that room when you are alone, without distractions and without noise. So please give yourself this gift every day. Just 10 minutes of silence. No phone, no music, no talking. And you will start to feel more clarity, more control, more peace, and more strength. Because true silence does not just exist around you, it begins within you. Now for step number 3. Speak less, and let your actions make the noise. You see, in today's world, everyone is talking. I will do this. I'm planning that. I'll start my new project tomorrow. I'm working on something really big. But what happens 90% of those people never actually do anything. Now I want you to think about the people you admire the most in your life. Do they talk a lot about their plans? Or do they work in silence, disappear for a while, and then return with amazing results? Let me give you an example that shook the world. Let's talk about Michael Jordan. Before he became a global legend, he was just a skinny boy from North Carolina. In high school, he was actually cut from the basketball team. The coach told him he wasn't good enough. He went home and cried. He was heartbroken. But he didn't argue with the coach. He didn't post about it online. He didn't beg for a second chance. He went silent. He made a decision deep inside himself. I will show them. But he decided to show them not with his words, but with his work. Every single morning before the sun came up, he was on the basketball court. While other kids were sleeping, he was practicing his jump shots. While other people were talking, he was building his body and his skills. There was no attention, no cameras, no noise, just silence and sweat. And when he returned the next year, he didn't just make the team. He became the best player on it. But he didn't stop there. He went on to become a 6-time NBA champion, a 5-time MVP, and the name that millions of people around the world call the GOAT, the greatest of all time. And how did he do it? By mastering silence. He let his game speak for him. He let his results scream for him. He became a legend without ever needing to explain himself to anyone. He once famously said, "I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." That is the incredible power of silent work. You don't have to announce your dreams to the world. You don't need applause from other people. You don't chase attention. You chase greatness. And when you finally achieve it, the world will have no choice but to listen. Let's move to step number 4. Observe more and judge less. The silent mind sees everything. The 4th step to mastering silence is this. Become an observer, not a judge. When you become silent, you begin to see things that other people miss. People who talk too much are too busy thinking about what to say next. They miss the important details. But people who stay quiet notice everything. When you walk into a room, don't immediately start talking. Just stop for a moment. Watch. Listen. You will start to notice who is lying by the way their eyes move. You will see who is nervous by the way they tap their foot. You will notice who is pretending to be confident and who is truly confident. You will see who is secretly hurting inside. Because silence sharpens all of your senses. Let me give you an example. There was once a quiet, underestimated woman named Angela Merkel. She did not come from a famous family. She was not a flashy person. She didn't raise her voice in debates or try to dominate rooms with loud words. But slowly, silently, and with deep observation, she rose through the ranks of German politics, one smart decision at a time, in rooms full of powerful men who were all shouting over each other. Angela would sit there calm, still, and focused. While others rushed to speak, she listened. She watched. She waited. And then, when she finally spoke, the entire room would fall silent. Because her silence had already spoken louder than all of their noise. She didn't just lead Germany. She became the chancellor for 16 years. arguably the most powerful woman in Europe. She led her country through crises, recessions, migration challenges, and global problems. And do you know what made her so powerful? Not shouting, not speeches. It was her stillness, her precision, and her silence. She once said, "Look at the world. Those who shout the loudest are not always the most effective." That is what made her different. While others tried to control situations with noise, she led with quiet strength. She didn't demand power. She became power. That is the art of silence. True leaders don't need to raise their voice, because when their silent presence enters a room, every other voice naturally lowers itself. Silence is not just the absence of sound. It is the presence of awareness. The more silent your mind becomes, the sharper your observation will be. You begin to see what truly motivates people, what scares them, what they are hiding, and what they really want. And when you understand people so deeply, you don't need to fight them. You can guide them. You can lead them. So make silence your superpower. The next time someone is telling you a story, don't just listen to their words. Watch their eyes. Feel their energy. Notice their pauses, because what is not said is often much more important than what is said. This is how leaders are born, by staying quiet, staying present, and seeing what everyone else misses. And now for step number 5. This is the final step. Practice the art of not reacting. Silence is strength, not suppression. This 5th and final step is the hardest, but it is also the most powerful. Learn to stay silent even when it hurts. This is the art of not reacting. People often think that silence in a difficult situation is a sign of weakness, but real silence is a sign of ultimate control. When someone insults you, silence. When someone betrays your trust, silence. When someone misunderstands you, silence. You do this not because you are weak and not because you don't care. You do it because you are choosing your peace over your pride. You are choosing wisdom over your ego. You are choosing growth over a temporary reaction. Let me tell you a real story from the world of sports. There was once a young tennis player named Naomi Osaka. She became very famous for her incredible power on the court. But more than that, she became respected for her powerful silence off the court. After winning major championships, she didn't boast or brag. After facing racist comments online, she didn't fight back with anger. She just kept working. Once a reporter asked her why she doesn't respond to all the hate she gets online. She said something beautiful. She said, "Because I'm not here to fight. I'm here to grow." That is silence as strength, not suppression. We live in a world where everyone wants to reply, to argue, to cancel, to attack. But you can choose to be different. You can stay calm. You can walk away. You can keep building your life. And one day, the people who doubted you will look at you successful, happy and peaceful, and they will have to say to themselves, "Maybe I was wrong about them." You won't even need to say, "I told you so," because your silence and your success will have already said everything. So remember this, always your reaction is your power. Don't give it away so cheaply. A lion does not react to the barking of small dogs. Neither should you. Walk away, stay silent, and rise higher. Now please listen carefully. If you remember only one thing from this entire video today, let it be this. Silence is not the absence of noise. Silence is the presence of strength. When you master silence, you master your mind. You master your emotions, your energy, and your entire life. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. And you don't need to react to every single challenge. Because when you are silent, you are calm, you are powerful, you are focused, and you are free. The world will try to test you. Some people will insult you. Some will doubt you. Some will try to break you. Let them try. You just stay quiet. Work hard, protect your precious energy, and move in silence. Because the day your success speaks for you, the whole world will listen without any interruption. You do not have to prove your worth to anyone. You are already enough. You are already powerful. You just need to learn to trust the silence that is inside you. So from this day forward, don't fear silence. Don't avoid it. Embrace it. Because it is not just a skill, it is your superpower. And if you found value in this message, if it touched your heart, if it made you feel something strong inside, then please subscribe to our channel. Because every day, we don't just teach English. We help you become wiser, stronger, and unbreakable. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay silent and stay powerful. Your silence is your strength.